children of these freedom fighters who gave up life and liberty so we can be free, cannot sit in silence and agree to a system that rendered those who freed us with their lives as criminals.
And so it is that our Parliament has started the debate on clearing the criminal records of some of our national heroes. We here at the JIS support this move, which honors our ancestors who've given their lives to pay for our freedom. Hello and welcome to this Heroes Day edition of Jamaica Magazine. Our program promises to leave you inspired to stand up for justice, brotherhood and peace. Stay tuned.
Marcus Mosiah Garvey, Jamaica's first national hero. Born in St. Ann, Garvey migrated to Kingston, where he worked as a printer and later published a small paper called The Watchman. During his career, Garvey traveled extensively throughout many countries, observing the poor working and living conditions of black people. In 1914, he started the Universal Negro Improvement Association, the UNIA, in Jamaica. The UNIA, which grew into an international organization, encouraged self-government for black people worldwide, self-help economic projects, and protested against racial discrimination. Garvey preached his doctrine of freedom to the oppressed blacks throughout the United States. He faced resistance in that country and was eventually imprisoned, then deported. Garvey continued his political activity after returning to Jamaica, forming the People's Political Party in 1929, winning a seat on the Kingston and St. Andrew Corporation. Unprepared as the world was for Garvey's progressive ideas in the 1930s, he was forced to leave Jamaica again, this time for England, where he died on June 10, 1940. His body was brought back to Jamaica in 1964 and buried in the National Heroes Park. Garvey's legacy can be summed up in the philosophy he taught: black pride, the need for African unity, self-reliance, and for rulers to govern on behalf of the working classes.
We want a productive Jamaica. We are not productive Jamaicans. Productivity to move forward on this land. Productivity, that's the way to go, we should understand. Productivity is the way to go for all us Jamaicans. Small business, big business, old and young, we are tell every woman and man. We want growth and prosperity for a better nation with a building plan. So we can build our product and sell our product and put more money in our hand. Our economy can rise to a level and build a better nation. Productivity to move forward on this land. Productivity, that's the way to go, we should understand. Productivity to move forward on this land. Productivity, that's the way to go, we should understand. Productivity.
Productivity, pathway to prosperity. A message brought to you by the Jamaica Productivity Center, a department of the Ministry of Labor and Social Security.
Samuel Sharpe was the main instigator of the 1831 slave rebellion that began on the Kensington estate in St. James, which was largely instrumental in bringing about the abolition of slavery. Because of his intelligence and leadership qualities, Sam Sharpe became a daddy or a leader of the native Baptists in Montego Bay. He used religious meetings as a way of organizing activities for the slaves, and there he was able to communicate his concern and encourage political thought concerning events in England which affected the slaves and Jamaica. Daddy Sharpe believed in passive resistance, and in 1831 he encouraged many slaves to refuse to work on Christmas Day, demanding better treatment and that slave owners consider their freedom. News of the plan spread to his supporters throughout St. James, Trelawney, Westmoreland, and even St. Elizabeth and Manchester. It reached the ears of some of the planters who got England to send warships that docked in Montego Bay and Manchester. On December 27, 1831, the Kensington Estate Great House was set on fire, a signal that the slave rebellion had begun. A terrible retribution followed, and while 14 whites died during the rebellion, more than 500 slaves lost their lives. Samuel Sharpe was hanged on May 23, 1832, 2 years before the Abolition Bill was passed by the British Parliament, and 6 years before slaves in Jamaica gained full freedom.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness now pays homage to the heroes and heroine who have laid the foundation on which we can make Jamaica the place of choice to live, work, raise families, and do business.
Greetings, my fellow Jamaicans. A great heritage, a great legacy. That is our theme for National Heritage Week, which culminates today on National Heroes Day. It is a theme that all of us as Jamaicans should internalize, appreciate, and bring to the forefront of our daily existence. The preservation and continuity of our rich and deeply rooted history, heritage, and culture spans generations, and our indomitable spirit is a part of the fabric that makes us who we are as a nation. We have a great heritage to promote and a great legacy to protect. We cannot afford to treat it lightly, knowing we have had significant global influence on every field, including music, culture, sports, medicine, and of course, our contribution to world history through our national heroes. Jamaica and Jamaicans can boast of our giants who stood tall against centuries of oppression. We produce heroes that impacted not just our great island nation, but the world. Queen Nanny, known for her bravery, resoluteness, and boldness. Sam Sharpe, he was prepared to die on yonder gallows rather than spend his life enslaved. George William Gordon chose the struggles of the black masses rather than live a privileged life. For that, he paid the ultimate price. Paul Bogle marched from Stony Gut in St. Thomas to Spanish Town to demand audience with the colonial masters so he could plead the case of the oppressed farmers. Marcus Garvey had a vision not just for Jamaicans, but for people of African descent the world over. His words of wisdom ring true today. In one of his famous quotes, he said, "If we as a people realize the greatness from which we came, we would be less likely to disrespect ourselves." Norman Manley formed one of our two main political parties and believed self-governance was important to independence. Sir Alexander Bustamante, considered the father of the nation, dedicated his life to Jamaica and was imprisoned in 1940 on charges of subversive activities. The widespread anti-colonial activism of the time finally resulted in Parliament granting Jamaicans universal adult suffrage in 1944. We must make a concerted national effort to always promote our proud heritage among our people, particularly our youth. They need to know, embrace, and treasure our Jamaican history and culture so that they can face the challenges of the future with confidence, optimism, and hope. The spirit of our heroes is within each and every one of us. That spirit of sacrifice, that sense of responsibility and duty towards others, that inner belief we are connected to a calling higher than ourselves. We praise and salute those who at times risked their lives to save ours, in one way or another. Recently, the entire nation was riveted by the story of a young man who risked his own life by jumping into a gully to rescue a child who was being swept away by flood waters. Sheer tenacity and complete faith in God kept him holding on, both for himself and for the child. We remember too the heroism of those young men who saved 7 lives during the May 16th flood rains in Sunnyside, Linstead, St. Catherine. These modern-day heroes remind us it is in our nature to reach out to others, to sacrifice for others. On this National Heroes Day, we salute them, as we do our sportsmen and women, our musicians, who through their work on the international scene shine a positive and bright light on Jamaica. Indeed, we also have everyday heroes in our military and police forces, our teachers, nurses, and countless others who see sacrifice as a duty and honor in service to our great nation. Let us resolve to be each other's keeper by giving a helping hand, a listening ear, a voice of reassurance to those in despair. Let us regain the determination to guide our young people who need to be steered in the right direction. Let us always remember to extend compassion to the elderly and the infirm. It must not be forgotten that they have contributed significantly to our nation and must never be allowed to fall by the wayside. Our national heroes have left us a great heritage and a great legacy on which to build. Let us preserve it for generations to come.
Paul Bogle, a Baptist deacon from Stony Gut in St. Thomas, who campaigned for fair treatment and justice for all Jamaicans. Bogle led a group of small farmers who walked 45 miles to Spanish Town to speak with the governor about social injustices, but the governor refused to see them. Things came to a head in October 1865 when Bogle and his supporters went to the Morant Bay courthouse to protest the unjust arrest of 2 farmers. Violence broke out, and when the fighting ended, nearly 500 people were dead and a greater number flogged and punished in what became known as the Morant Bay Rebellion. On October 24, 1865, Bogle was captured and hanged. But his forceful demonstration achieved its objectives, a change in political leadership and in the attitude of officials. Paul Bogle was named a national hero in 1969. His image appears on the 10-cent coin and on the $2 note, which is currently out of circulation. It's all I ever have.
Nutritious food, succulent dishes, superior workmanship, and excellent service. Jamaica is on the go. Let's grow what we eat and eat what we grow. Let's harness the indomitable spirit of our most valued resource, our people. Let's support our local businesses. After all, buying Jamaican means building Jamaica.
George William Gordon was a self-educated landowner in the parish of St. Thomas. His mother was a slave and his father a plantation owner who was an attorney to several sugar estates. An advocate for slaves, Gordon entered politics, but the people whose interests he sought to represent did not qualify to vote. Gordon later urged the people to resist the oppressive and unjust conditions under which they were forced to live. Although he did not participate in the protest, Gordon was arrested and charged for complicity in what we now refer to as the Morant Bay Rebellion in 1865. He was illegally tried by court-martial, and in spite of a lack of evidence, he was convicted and sentenced to death. He was executed on October 23, 1865.
For Jamaica to fulfill the dreams of our ancestors, it requires all hands working together to build this great nation. That notion isn't lost on the leader of the opposition. His Heroes Day message is next.
Once again, It is time for us to recognize and celebrate the achievements of our national heroes. Collectively, their exploits and accomplishments have paved the way for Jamaica to move from plantation slavery to nationhood. The bravery and courage of Nanny of the Maroons and Sharpe propelled us along the path from slavery to freedom. Paul Bogle and George William Gordon led the fight for social justice and access to land. Garvey gave Jamaicans the self-confidence to rise above their circumstances and compete successfully with the best in the race of life. Bustamante's deep commitment to the workers and Norman Manley's confidence in Jamaica's capacity for self-government charted the course from colonialism to nationhood. The journey from plantation slavery to nationhood has made us Jamaicans a proud, visionary, and ambitious people, always striving for excellence, committed to equality and social justice, and caring for each other. However, we need to bear in mind that with each passing year, fewer and fewer Jamaicans have any living memory of any of our heroes. It is therefore of the utmost importance that we utilize the media, the classroom, and our creative artists to inform and educate our children of the great heritage and the great legacy that we have inherited. Today, as we celebrate our national heroes, let us also pause to recognize the tremendous contributions of the thousands of our ordinary Jamaican citizens who have given and who continue to give service way and beyond the call of duty to keep Jamaica going. Particularly at this time, we pay tribute to the members of our security forces who put their lives on the line battling violent criminals, often without adequate support. We also pay respect to our teachers, our healthcare workers, and the other public sector workers who often give of their personal time and resources to keep the nation's social services functioning in very difficult circumstances. Respect is also due to the thousands of Jamaicans who give voluntary service through their citizens associations, neighborhood watches, or youth clubs on behalf of their fellow citizens. These are the present-day heroes who, by their collective effort, remind us that the vision, hopes, and aspirations of the founding heroes of our nation are still to be fully realized. There are still too many suffering from poverty, joblessness, or a lack of housing or access to land. Too many of our children are left behind in our educational system without adequate preparation for responsible citizenship and the world of work. The Jamaica that our heroes lived, worked, and died for is one in which no citizen would be a squatter in the land of their birth. In that Jamaica, no child would be left behind by an educational system which fails the majority of students. It would be a Jamaica in which every worker would have a fair share of the wealth they create and equal enjoyment of the rights that our heroes secured for them. This Jamaica, however, can only be built by a political leadership that places the highest premium on integrity and which is committed to the highest standards of public service while recognizing the importance of a partnership with the people that they serve. We can best honor our heroes by providing this leadership in our various areas of endeavor as we rededicate ourselves to the task of building a Jamaica that offers opportunity to all its people, and where we all share and care for each other. Have a happy Heroes Day, and may God bless you all and Jamaica, land we love.
Nanny, a leader of the Maroons, was known by both the Maroons and the British settlers as an outstanding military leader who became, in her lifetime and after, a symbol of unity and strength for her people during times of crisis. She was particularly important to the Maroons in the fierce fight with the British during the First Maroon War from 1720 to 1739. Legend and documents refer to her as having exceptional leadership qualities. Nanny was described as a small, wiry woman with piercing eyes, and her influence over the Maroons was so strong that it seemed to be supernatural. Her cleverness in planning guerrilla warfare outwitted the British, and their accounts of the fights reflect the surprise and fear which the Maroon traps caused. Nanny's courage during the First Maroon War is still the stuff of legends. She led her people with courage and inspired them to struggle to maintain the spirit of freedom, to fight for freedom, which was their rightful inheritance.
It's all I ever have.
Bask in the glory of our nationhood.
This is Jamaica. This is our land.
The allure of the landscape, the white coral sands, the sea-carved cliffs of the shorelines, the warm free spirit of the people beckons tenderly to natives and visitors alike. This natural paradise of over 4,000 square miles is home to about 2.7 million English-speaking inhabitants, principally of African roots. Jamaicans are a sport-loving people. Cricket, track and field, and football are among the most popular spectator sports. The strength and resilience of the people are embodied in world-class athletes such as Asafa Powell, Veronica Campbell-Brown, Shelley and Fraser-Price, and Usain Lightning Bolt. The vibrant city of Kingston, the country's capital, is built around the 7th largest natural harbour in the world and is the centre of economic and political life. The second city, Montego Bay, is a virtual tourist mecca. The magnificent mountains that form a ridge across the length of the country are home to the more than 300 species of herbs, plants and animals and are endemic to the country. Towering some 7,500 feet above sea level is the Blue Mountain's highest peak, the cradle of the world's best tasting coffee. Jamaica's economic policies encourage foreign investment in areas that earn or save foreign exchange, generate employment, and use local raw materials. The entire economy revolves around a well-developed financial services sector that operates on international best practice standards. The Financial Services Commission, FSC, as well as the Bank of Jamaica, regulate and supervise the industry. Cross-border trading with other markets in the Caribbean underscores the depth of the market. The Port of Kingston has the 7th largest natural harbour in the world and is the premier trading hub of the Caribbean. The two international airports, Norman Manley in Kingston and Sangston Montego Bay, allow easy entry and exit from the island and are complemented by a well-organized, on-the-ground transport system. A comprehensive healthcare system that promotes physical, mental, social and spiritual well-being is the foundation on which the country seeks to enhance the quality of life for all its people. Jamaica is a country infused with pride in its unique history, stunning landscape and influential culture. It has much to offer its people and the curious traveler. The beauty of nature and the creative spirit of the Jamaican people have combined to shape a nation and country that is one of the most beautiful in the world.
This is Jamaica. This is our land.
Scholar, soldier, athlete, statesman and advocate, Norman Washington Manley supported the cause of the workers at the time of the labor troubles of 1938 and gave his time on their behalf. In that same year, Manley founded the People's National Party, PNP, and remained as its president until his retirement in 1969. Manley and the PNP supported the trade union movement, leading the demand for universal adult suffrage, which eventually came in 1944. He became chief minister after the 1955 election and later premier in 1958 when Jamaica joined the West Indies Federation. Although he was a staunch supporter of the Federation, N.W. Manley put the issue to the people, holding a referendum in 1961 to decide if the country should remain in the Federation. The answer was no, and Manley arranged for Jamaica's orderly withdrawal. He then set up a joint committee to decide on a separate constitution for independent Jamaica. With great distinction, Manley led the team that negotiated the island's independence from Britain. He ended his public service career as the leader of the opposition. Norman Manley died on September 2, 1969.
Stand up and get in the race.
I can become the master of my destiny.
Step up your stride, make we work like a harder. Do it like Veronica, more than a supper.
We can rise above the challenges and shine.
Was with passion in your heart. Make a plan and stop all the idling. You think I saw? We reach our aging. I can, you can. Like our Olympians, every Jamaican can.
Sir Alexander Bustamante, the undisputed champion of the working class. As a trade unionist, he earned the title when he tackled unemployment and the terrible pay and working conditions facing working class Jamaicans. Sir Alexander spoke fearlessly against the English colonial rulers, writing several letters to the Gleaner and occasionally to British newspapers. Widespread discontent led to social unrest in 1937 and 1938, and all the time, Bustamante continued to champion the cause of the people. On September 8, 1940, he was detained for an alleged violation of the Defense of the Realm Act. He was locked up for a year and 5 months. Sir Alexander later founded the Jamaica Labour Party in 1943 and won the first general election under universal adult suffrage in 1944. He also became the first Prime Minister of an independent Jamaica in 1962. Sir Alexander died in 1977.
And that's how we close this Heroes Day edition of Jamaica Magazine. I hope you were inspired by the solid foundation that our heroes have laid for us to chart a course for the future. And it starts with you being the hero of your own story, working diligently and creatively, thinking generously and honestly to make Jamaica great. Happy Heroes Day.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.